Hi, Salon Begg here from McMaths, and welcome to this week's lesson. This week's lesson is going to be on expanding single brackets. It's going to be the first of a few lessons on this subject. We're going to also cover expanding double brackets and factorization of single and double brackets also. Let's begin. This is going to be a Scottish Senior Level 1 level exercise. Expanding brackets and simplifying. Let's start at the start. What is expanding brackets? Expanding brackets is removing or eliminating brackets from an equation. Let's look at this in short, and then we'll go into the deep dive. This is going to be our format. A, open brackets, B plus C, close brackets. What does that equal if you remove or expand the brackets? Throughout this lesson, we're going to be color coding the equation. That'll help to identify where the results are coming from. The first thing you do is multiply A times B, then A times C. So this is what it looks like. For those of you who are familiar with my style of lessons, we're going to add in the signs for the positive variables and positive numbers at the start. This is going to make it easier for us to work out whether the multiplier result should be a negative answer or a positive answer. A times B is the same as positive A times positive B. Then A times C is the same as positive A times positive C. Positive A times positive B, a positive times a positive, equals positive AB, or once you get to the answer, just AB. And then positive A times positive C is positive AC. So A, open brackets, B plus C, close brackets. To expand those brackets, you end up with AB plus AC. So that's in short how we're going to work this out. Now let's start to actually go into the method and technique that I am suggesting you use to simplify and expand single brackets. Okay, let's start our methodology. I've got a particular style of doing this, which I think makes it foolproof. It may not be the way you've seen it done before, but bear with me, especially when we get to the more complicated questions at the end. So here's the first example. X, open brackets, Y plus z close brackets. What does that equal if we expand the brackets? Here's our color coding: x open brackets y plus z. First step is x times y. Second step is x times z. Okay, so this is the method that I use, and I'm suggesting you use also. I'm suggesting that you temporarily put the signs in for all the positive variables and or numbers. The reason for doing this is it makes it clearer whether the multiplier ends up being a positive answer or a negative answer. It reminds you what you're multiplying together: positive times a positive, positive times a negative, or a negative times a negative. Makes it clearer what the resultant answer should be, what the sign should be of the resultant answer. So here we have it: positive x times positive y. Then separate this into two parts of the same equation. Okay? As we work through these, the reason for doing this will become apparent. And the second part of the equation is positive x times positive z. Here's where the positive z comes from, because it's a plus sign within the brackets. That's why I've color coded it, so you can see where the numbers come from. So positive x times positive y, positive x times positive y, and positive x times positive z, positive x times positive z. So split this equation into two parts. Don't put a plus or a minus function sign in between these two parts yet. Leave that until the end. So we have positive x times positive y and positive x times positive z. A positive times a positive equals a positive answer. A positive times a positive equals a positive answer. Positive x times positive y is positive xy, and positive x times positive z is positive xz. So positive xy and positive xz. So you can drop the positive from the xy, put that at the start of your answer, then change the positive sign into a plus function. Change the positive sign into a plus function. So instead of writing it down as positive xz, write it down as add xz. Here, change the positive sign to a add function. And this is your answer: xy plus xz. Here's the next example we're going to do. X open brackets, y minus z close brackets. What's that if we expand the brackets? We're going to go through the exact same steps for each example and each quiz question that we're going to do later. If you keep on doing the same exact steps, then you'll get to the correct answer. This one's different from the first example because we've now got a subtraction. Instead of it being an add between the two variables inside the brackets, we've now got a subtraction. Let's see what difference that makes. Color code it again, just to highlight where the variables and signs come from. X times y and x times z. Same method, temporarily put the signs back in for any positive variables or positive numbers. So we have positive x times positive y, and for the second part of our equation we have positive x times negative z. Here's where the negative sign comes from on the negative z. It comes from the subtract z. Here it is, red and red. Positive x times positive y and positive x times negative z. Split the two parts of the equation for now. We'll put it all together when we get to the answer step. So here we have positive x times positive y and positive x times negative z. Positive times a positive equals positive xy, and positive x times negative z. Positive times a negative equals negative xz. Positive xy and negative xz. Take away the positive sign from the xy, make that xy, and then change the negative sign into a subtraction sign. Xy subtract xz. Xy take away xz. We've changed the negative sign into a subtraction function. Next example, 2 open brackets y plus z close brackets. Y plus z. You'll see this one's different. We've not got a variable outside the brackets, we've now got a number. 2 times y and 2 times z. Temporarily put the signs in for all the positive variables and or positive numbers. So we've got positive 2 times positive y, and split the equation, positive 2 times positive z. Here's where the positive z comes from the plus z inside the brackets. Positive 2 times positive y, split it, and positive 2 times positive z. Split this equation for now. When we get to the answer step, we can put it all back together again. Positive times a positive. Positive 2 times positive y equals positive 2y. Positive 2 times positive z. Positive times a positive equals a positive. Positive 2z. 2y, split it, positive 2z. Drop the positive for the 2y, put that as your start of your answer, and then change the positive 2z to plus 2z. And that's your answer. 2y plus 2z. Here's our next example. Negative 2, open brackets, y plus z. So this example here, we've now got a negative number outside the brackets. What difference is that going to make? We'll color code it again to help us track where the numbers and variables and signs come from. Negative 2 times y is going to be our first half of our equation, and then negative 2 times z. This is the method we're going to stick with. Put the positive signs back in for the positive variables and or positive numbers. So, first part of the equation, negative 2 times positive y, split it, negative 2 times positive z. Here's where the positive comes for the positive z. Negative 2 times positive y and negative 2 times positive z. Split it into two separate equations for now. So we're going to have negative 2 times positive y. Negative times a positive is going to be a negative answer. Negative 2 times positive y is negative 2y. And second part of the equation, negative 2 times positive z. Negative times a positive equals a negative. Negative 2 times positive z is negative 2z. So we have the two parts of our equation, negative 2y and negative 2z. Our answer is going to be negative 2y from here. Then we're going to change the negative 2z into subtract. Subtract 2z. So our answer is negative 2y subtract 2z. Our fifth example. Negative 2, open brackets, negative y plus z. So we've now got a negative number outside the brackets and a negative variable inside the brackets. So what difference is that going to make? Negative 2 outside and negative y inside. Color code them again. First step is going to be negative 2 times negative y, and then the second step is going to be negative 2 times z. Put the positive signs back in for any positive variables or positive numbers. We have negative 2 times negative y. Split the equation. Negative 2 times positive z. Here's where the positive comes for the positive z. negative 2 times negative y, and negative 2 times positive z. Split the equation for now. We'll put it all back together again when we get to the answer step. Negative 2 times negative y, a negative times a negative times a negative equals a positive. Negative 2 times negative y equals positive 2y. Again, keep the positive sign in there for now. And then negative 2 times positive z, negative times a positive equals a negative. Negative 2 times positive z equals negative 2z. So the two parts of our equation are positive 2y and negative 2z. Drop the positive from the start our answer with that, and then change the negative 2z to minus 2z. So the answer is 2y minus 2z. This is our next example. Now we're going to have 3 variables inside the bracket. Still a single bracket, but we've got 3 variables inside the bracket now. One's an add and one's a subtract. Color code it again so we know where the variable letters and function signs come from. Our first step is going to be 4 times the A, then 4 times the B, and of course then 4 times the C. Exact same method, doesn't matter how many variables, how many numbers are inside those single brackets. Let's put positive signs back in so that we know what resultant sign is going to be. So we've got positive 4 times positive A, positive 4 times positive B, and positive 4 times negative C. Positive 4 times positive A, positive 4 times positive B, and positive 4 times negative C. That's where the positive side comes from for the B, from the add B, and here's where the negative sign comes from the subtract C. This time we're going to split it into 3 separate equations, 3 separate chunks, and we're going to do them one at a time, and then we're going to put them all back together again for the ultimate answer. So we've got positive times a positive, positive 4 times positive A equals positive times a positive equals a positive, positive 4A, positive 4 times positive B, positive times a positive is a positive answer, positive 4 times positive B is positive 4B, and then positive 4 times negative C, positive times a negative equals a negative. Positive 4 times negative C equals negative 4C. So the 3 chunks for our answer, we've got positive 4A, positive 4B, and negative 4C. Drop the positive sign for the 4A to start our answer. Change the positive 4B to add 4B, and change the negative 4C to subtract 4C. Positive changes to a plus, negative changes to a subtract, and that's going to be our final answer, 4A plus 4B minus 4C. example 7. X, open brackets, 2x plus z. Now we've got similar variables here in this one. How's that going to work out? Color code it again. First step is going to be x times 2x and then x times z. Put the positive signs back in. Positive x times positive 2x and positive x times positive z. Here's where the positive comes from for the positive z. Positive x times positive 2x and positive x times positive z. Split it into two chunks. Positive times a positive is going to give us a positive answer. Positive x times positive 2x equals positive 2x squared. X times x, x squared. Positive x times positive z, positive times a positive equals positive xz. So here's the two halves of our equation before we get the answer. Drop the positive sign for the 2x to start the answer with 2x. Change the positive sign for the xz to a plus sign. 2x squared add xz. Change the plus sign to an add function. Here is example 8. Different one here is that we've now got a number inside the brackets. It's no longer two variables. Color code it again. 2y and 2 times the 6. Signs back in. Positive 2 times positive y. Split the equation. Positive 2 times positive 6. Here's where the positive sign comes from for the positive 6. Positive 2 times positive y and positive 2 times positive 6. Think of it as two separate chunks of the equation until we get to the answer step. Positive times a positive, it's going to be a positive answer. Positive 2 times positive y is positive 2y. And positive 2 times positive 6 is a positive answer. Positive 2 times positive 6, positive 12. So here is the answer for the two halves of the equation. We've got positive 2y and positive 12. Drop the positive sign from the 2y, start the answer with 2y, and change the positive 12 to add 12. Our answer is 2y plus 12. Now we're going to move on to an example with two sets of single brackets. This is where you're going to see the benefit of putting the signs in and keeping the formula into separate chunks. Okay, we've color coded it up again. Two times 3x and 2 times 6. 2x times 2y and 2x times the 4. That's going to be the stages and multiplications we're going to have to work out. Let's put those positive signs back in where applicable. Positive 2 times positive 3x, positive 2 times positive 6, positive 2x times positive y, and positive 2x times positive 4. Here's where the positive comes for the positive 6, and here's where the positive comes for positive 4. Here is where the positive 2x comes from, and that's the same for this 2x as well. The fact that you've got an addition sign in between the two single brackets, we've made that a positive sign for the 2x for our multiplication calculations. Now we're going to split it into 4 chunks. 2 chunks for the first part and 2 chunks for the second part. So positive 2 times positive 3x, positive 2 times positive 6, positive 2x times positive y, and positive 2x times positive 4. Positive 2 times positive 3x equals positive 6x. Positive 2 times positive 6 equals positive 12. Positive 2x times positive 2y equals positive 4xy. And positive 2 times positive 4 equals positive 8x. Now, we're going to simplify the equation by putting together, side by side, common variables and or numbers. At the moment, we've got an x here and an x at the end. We need to put them side by side to work out the answer. So move them side by side, but keep them in their chunks. Yeah. So we've got 6x, positive 6x chunk here, positive 8x chunk here, but just put them side by side and leave the positive 4xy chunk and the positive 12 chunk beside each other also. Yeah. So you're putting together side by side the 6x and the 8x to give you positive 6x and positive 8x side by side. So the next step is we're going to drop the positive in front of the 8x and we're going to make that an add. So we've got 6x plus 8x, and then we've still got the positive 4xy chunk and the positive 12 chunk. So 6x plus 8x equals positive 14x, and we've still got the other 2 chunks left. Positive 14x, drop the positive, start the answer with 14x, change the positive 4xy to an add 4xy, and change the positive 12 to add 12. So the answer is 14x plus 4xy plus 12. Let's look at this example, example 10. Negative 5 open brackets, y plus 6, close brackets. We've got a negative number outside, and we've got a combination of variables and numbers inside. Colour code it up again. First part of the equation is going to be negative 5 times y, and then the second part of the equation is going to be negative 5 times 6. Put the positive signs back in where applicable. We have negative 5 times positive y and negative 5 times positive 6. Here's where the positive sign comes from for the positive 6. Negative 5 times positive y and negative 5 times positive 6. Split it into two chunks. Keep our consistent method going throughout all these examples and all the quiz questions which we're moving on to next. Negative 5 times positive y, negative times a positive is going to be a negative answer. Negative 5 times positive y is negative 5y, and negative 5 times positive 6, negative times a positive is going to be a negative. Negative 5 times positive 6 equals negative 30. Negative 5y is going to be the start of our answer, and then we're going to change the negative 30 to subtract 30. So the answer is negative 5y subtract 30. That was our worked examples. Did you manage to follow it along? Remember, whenever you're doing these as an actual test, put down as much working as you require to get the answer correct. Obviously, I'm not expecting you to put down every single step and intonation that we went through today in this lesson. That's just to show you where the numbers and the letters have came from. Put down as much working as you require to get the correct answer. Remembering the golden rule, if you don't put any working down and you get the answer wrong, you will get no points. Put some working down and ultimately get the wrong answer, you will get some points for putting down some correct working. Wrong answer, no working, no points. Let's have a look at the quiz questions. Here's the first one. 4, open brackets, x plus 2, close brackets. We're going to use the exact same methodology and steps that we've looked at so far for the worked examples. Colour coding it up. First part is going to be 4 times the x and then 4 times the 2. 4 times the x and 4 times the 2. Put our positive signs in for the positive variables and positive numbers. We have positive 4 times positive x and positive 4 times positive 2. Here's where the positive sign comes from for the positive 2. Positive 4 times positive x and positive 4 times positive 2. Keeping it in our two separate chunks until we get to the final end stage. Positive 4 times positive x, positive times a positive means a positive answer. Positive 4 times positive x, positive 4x. Positive 4 times positive 2, positive times a positive means a positive answer. Positive 4 times positive 2 positive 8. Positive 4, drop the positive, start our answer with 4x. Positive 8, change the positive to an add. 4x plus 8 is our answer. Question 2. 8 open brackets 3x minus 5. Colour code it up again. First part of the equation is going to be 3x times 8 and 8 times 5. How's that going to look if we put our positive signs in for the positive variables and positive numbers? Positive 8 times positive 3x and positive 8 times negative 5. Here's where the sign comes from on the negative 5. Positive 8 times positive 3x and positive 8 times the negative 5. Split it into 2 chunks. Positive 8 times positive 3x. Positive times positive is a positive answer. Positive 8 times positive 3x equals positive 24x. Then positive 8 times negative 5. Positive times a negative equals a negative answer. Positive 8 times negative 5 equals negative 40. We have positive 24x. Drop the positive sign, start our answer with 24x, and then change the negative sign to a subtraction function. 24x subtract 40 is our answer. Question 3. 6m open brackets 2 subtract n. Colour code it up. First step is going to be 6m times the 2, then 6m times n. Put the positive signs back in. We have positive 6m times positive 2 and positive 6m times negative n. Here's where the negative sign comes from for the negative n variable. Positive 6m times positive 2 and positive 6m times negative n. Keep it into 2 chunks. Positive 6m times positive 2, positive times a positive equals a positive answer. Positive 6m times positive 2 equals positive 6m. Then positive 6m times negative n. Positive times a negative equals a negative answer. Positive 6m times negative n equals negative 6mn. Positive 12m. Drop the positive sign, start our answer with 12m, and then change the negative sign from the negative 6mn to subtract 6mn. So our answer is 12m subtract 6mn. Next question. How are you getting on with these? Obviously, you can pause and write down the steps and working to get the right answer. and then check it as we go along. 8 open brackets x subtract 2y subtract 5z. This time 3 variables inside our bracket, but still just a single bracket. Color code it up. 8 times the x, 8 times the 2y, and 8 times the 5z. Put the positive signs back in. Positive 8 times positive x, positive 8 times negative 2y, and positive 8 times negative 5z. That's where the negative sign comes from for the negative 2y, and that's where the negative sign comes from for the negative 5z. This time it's 3 little chunks for our equation. So here we have positive 8 times positive x. Positive times a positive equals a positive answer. Positive 8 times positive x equals positive 8x. Next chunk, positive 8 times negative 2y. Positive times a negative equals a negative answer. Positive 8 times negative 2y equals negative 16y. Positive 8 times negative 5z. Positive times a negative equals a negative answer. Positive 8 times negative 5z equals negative 40z. So here we have positive 8x, drop the positive sign for the start of our answer, change the negative sign from the negative 16y to subtract 16y, and change the negative 40z to subtract 40z. And that's our answer. Next question. 8j, open brackets, j plus 6. Color code it again, just so we know where the variables, signs and numbers are coming from. 8j times j, 8j times the 6. Put the positive signs back in. Positive 8j times positive j. Positive 8j times positive 6. Here's where the positive sign comes from for the positive 6. Positive 8j times positive j, and the second part of the equation, positive 8j times positive 6. Keep it as 2 separate chunks as we're working it out. Put the function signs in right at the end. First part of the equation, we have positive 8j times positive j. Positive times a positive equals a positive answer. Positive 8j times positive j equals positive 8j squared. J times j, j squared. The second half of the equation, positive 8j times positive 6. Positive times a positive equals a positive answer. Positive 8j times positive 6 equals positive 48j. Drop the positive sign from the 8j squared, start our answer with 8j squared, change the positive sign from the positive 48j to add 48j. That's our answer. 8j squared plus 48j. Question 6. Now we've got a negative 9h outside and a negative 8h inside and a subtract m inside as well. So quite a lot of subtraction and negative signs here. How's that going to work out? Colour code it up. First step is going to be negative 9h times negative 8h. And then we've got negative 9h times the m. Temporarily put the positive signs in where they're applicable. This particular one, there's going to be no positive signs. That's where the negative sign comes from for the negative m. And we're going to have negative 9h times negative 8h and negative 9h times negative m. Think of it as two separate chunks for now. Keep our consistent method going through. Negative 9h times negative 8h. Negative times a negative is going to be a positive answer. Negative 9h times negative 8h equals positive 72h squared. 9 times 8 is 72 and h times h is h squared. Second part is going to be negative 9h times negative n. Negative times a negative is going to be a positive. Negative 9h times negative m is positive 9hm. So last step before we get our answer, we're going to drop the positive from the positive 72h squared, and we're going to start our answer with 72h squared, and we're going to change the positive from the positive 9hm to add 9hm, and that's going to be our answer. 72h squared plus 9hm. Question 7. So this is the first of our quiz questions which is going to have two lots of single brackets, and we're going to add them together. We have to simplify both halves and collect like terms. Five times the x, 5 times the 2, 3 times the x, and 3 times the 4. Put the positive signs back in, of course. You know the script by now. Positive 5 times positive x, positive 5 times positive 2, positive 3 times positive x, and positive 3 times positive 4. Here we are. 2, 3, 4 chunks. Here's where the positive signs come from. And here's where these positive signs come from. Split it into 4 separate chunks, 2 single brackets, 2 chunks for this single bracket, and 2 chunks for this single bracket. Positive 5 times positive x equals positive 5x. Positive 5 times positive 2 equals positive 10. Positive 3 times positive x, positive 3x. And positive 3 times positive 4, positive 12. Next step is going to be collecting like terms. The like terms in this equation are the 5x and the 3x, and the 10 and the 12. So put the 5x and the 3x beside each other, keep the positive signs in for now, and the 10 and the 12, put them side by side in the order of our 4 chunks. Keep the positive signs in for now. 3x and the 5x and the 12 and the 10. So to simplify that, we're going to have 5x plus 3x plus 10 plus 12. We're going to change the function signs and change the negative and positive signs into function signs. We've now got like terms together, the x's and the numbers. (5x plus 3x equals 8x, and 10 plus 12 equals 22. So that's the answer, 8x plus 22. Question 8. 7 open brackets x minus 5 subtract 6 open brackets x minus 5. Color code it up. 7 times the x, 7 times the 5, 6 times the x, and 6 times the 5. But what signs are they going to be? Let's do that next. Put the positive signs in where applicable. 7 times positive x, positive 7 times negative 5, negative 6 times positive x, and negative 6 times negative 5. 2, 3, 4 separate chunks to work out step by step. Here's where the negative signs come from. Here's where these negative signs come from. Think of it as 4 chunks, 2 chunks each for each set of single brackets. Positive 7 times positive x equals positive 7x. Positive 7 times negative 5 equals negative 35. Negative 6 times positive x equals negative 6x. And negative 6 times negative 5 equals positive 30. Negative times a negative equals a positive. 6 times 5, 30, positive 30. Rearrange the 4 chunks so that we've got like terms and like numbers together. 2 lots of x's and 2 lots of numbers. Put them beside each other, but don't change signs into functions yet. Here's our 2 x's together, and here's our 2 numbers together. Positive 7x and negative 6x, change that to 7x subtract 6x, and negative 35, change that to subtract 35, and positive 30, change that to add 30. So next step we're going to work out is what is 7x minus 6x minus 35 plus 30? So 7x subtract 6x is going to be 1x or just x. Then we're going to be subtracting 35 plus 30. Negative 35 plus 30 on your think of your number line. You've went 35 to the left of your number line and you've came back up 30 to the right on your number line, which still leaves you 5 to the left of your number line to get a minus 5. So 7x minus 6x equals 1x or just x, and negative 30 plus positive 30 is negative 5. So this is your answer, x minus 5. Our penultimate quiz question, negative 9, open brackets, x subtract 6, and we're going to add that to 7, open brackets, x subtract 7. Color code it up. Negative 9 times x, negative 9 times 6, and then 7 times x and 7 times 7. Put the positive signs in for any positive variables or positive numbers. Negative 9 times positive x, negative 9 times negative 6, positive 7 times positive x, and positive 7 times negative 7. Keeping it in our 4 chunks. Here's where the negative signs come from, and here is where the positive signs come from. 2 single brackets means 4 chunks, 4 little equations to work out, mini equations, before we put them all together to give our final answer. Negative 9 times positive x equals negative 9x. Negative 9 times negative 6 is positive 54. Positive 7 times positive x is positive 7x. And positive 7 times negative 7 is negative 49. Collect our like terms. At the moment, we've got 2 lots of x's and 2 lots of numbers. Let's put them side by side, keeping the signs in at the moment. Don't change them to functions yet. X's together and the numbers together. Then we can change signs to functions to get negative 9x plus 7x plus 54 subtract 49. 2 x's together, 2 numbers together. And let's work it out. Negative 9 plus 7x equals negative 2x, and positive 54 subtract 49 equals plus 5. This is our answer, negative 2x plus 5. Here's our last quiz question. How have you been getting on so far? Hopefully 100%. We're going to color code it up. Negative 8 times the x, negative 8 times the 5. Then we've got the 9 times the x and the 9 times the 7. But what signs are they going to be? Put the positive signs back in. We're going to have negative 8 times positive x, negative 8 times negative 5, and negative 9 times positive x, and negative 9 times negative 7. Here's where the negative signs come from, and here's where these negative signs come from. 4 little chunks. Keep our method consistent. Keep a consistent method, you're going to consistently get the right answer. Negative 8 times positive x equals negative 8x. Negative times a positive equals a negative. Negative 8 times negative 5. Negative times a negative equals a positive. Positive 40. Negative 9 times positive x. Negative times a positive equals a negative. Equals negative 9x. Negative 9 times positive 7. Negative times a negative equals a positive. Positive 63. Collect our like terms together. In this case, we have got 2 lots of x's and 2 lots of numbers. Put them beside each other. Put the x's beside each other and put the numbers beside each other. Then change the signs to functions. Negative 8x subtract 9x plus 40 plus 63. Put our x's together and our numbers together. Negative 8x subtract 9x equals negative 17x, and plus 40 plus 63 equals add 103. This is our answer. Negative 17x plus 103. How did you get on? Hopefully you managed to complete that 100%. If you think you got any benefit from this exercise, please like, subscribe and share it wherever you like. I'm doing this for free. Alan Begg signing off for McMaths. Until the next time. Like, share, subscribe. See ya.